Cities are rising, rising in front of me. I wanna hide it, want to go back to sleep. I wish I could rewind it. Can I rewind it? We woke up naked, like we're more than friends. We can go through it, can do it all again, like we rewind it. Like we rewind it. And I don't wanna know, I just wanna feel. We let it go, nothing is too wrong, we make it real. Don't wanna care, just live and die. I see you there, nothing is too wrong for you and I. Always somewhere else, oh somewhere else in mind. Always somewhere else, but still we can't rewind. Always somewhere else, oh somewhere else in mind. Always somewhere else, but still we can't rewind. We meet in the morning like it's a demon, but it's just something I don't believe in. Still we rewind it, keep on rewind it. Across the borders, beyond the city lights, a new horizon with unforgiving lies, but I don't mind it. Keep on rewind it. And I don't wanna know, I just wanna feel. We let it go, nothing is too wrong, we make it real. Don't wanna care, just live and die. I see you there, nothing is too wrong for you and I. Always somewhere else, oh somewhere else in mind. Always somewhere else, but still we can't rewind. Always somewhere else, oh somewhere else in mind. Always somewhere else, but still we can't rewind.
Playing with temptation, searching for salvation. Can we find our way back, way back? Caught up in confusion, need a resolution. Can we find our way back, way back? No more running, no more running, no more chasing. No more running now, I'm running out of patience. Caught up in confusion, need a resolution. Can we find our way back, way back? Can we find our way Can we find our way back?
Searching for music for your next video? Then you need to check out Artlist. With amazing new music added daily and one simple license that covers everything. Artlist is the music licensing platform for all.
Can we find our way back, way back? No more running now, I'm running out of patience. Caught up in confusion, need a resolution. Can we find our way back?
Hello everyone, how are you? My name is OJ, your brush jockey, coming to you here at Brush Jockey Studios. Wraith Dancer, nice to see you this weekend, buddy. Hopefully weekend's going well. Saw some of your saw your Pox Walker that you posted there. Looks looking pretty sharp, man. Really looking really good actually. I'm just gonna see if I can move this over here like this. A little bit more center. No complaints here. Good to hear. Good to hear. That's always nice. Awesome. So today's a nice and hot day outside, so it's nice to be in the basement in a cool, warm, and dry area. It is kind of chilly. I got my slippers on to be able to do this, but today we're going to be doing our Finish Dat mini segment, where I found an old model that I had purchased on an auction way back when. And this is the type of thing that I'm looking at. This is a model that was painted by, if I'm not mistaken, this was painted by my stepson several years ago. It was primed just white, but you can see that there's still some pieces that are missing. There's a lot of details that aren't picked out, a lot of the shading and whatnot, and I want to make sure that that we capture that in this model. So the idea around this is something that was painted by someone, a younger miniature painter, and he's given me permission to essentially paint this. So there we go. We're gonna get this going. What's nice about this is that it's got a kind of a base coat already on it. So I'm gonna kind of darken it and deepen it with some of the contrast paints that we have. I am going to clean up a few of the pieces though, just to make sure that all of the reds have the red areas. So I'm just going to come around and hit the edges to make sure that I got all of the skin tones red, so I can bring that in with a nice wash or a darker color on there. I'll hit some of the leathers. I'll make sure that all the gold pieces are touched up gold, and I'll apply my wash and apply the leather pieces. And that's going to be this is going to be a really simple fix for the actual model itself. All right, so you can see some of the details. I just want to make sure that I capture all of that. All right, so if I'm not mistaken, this here was a corn red that was used for the actual paint itself. So we're going to get our corn red out as a base color, and we're going to get this going. So something that's really neat and nice about this particular segment is that I'm really liking the ability to be able to go back to models that I hadn't really been 100% happy with, or finding models that other people have. Wraith Dancer, you've kind of identified one that you want me to do. That's probably going to be, normally that's larger than I typically would want to do on a stream, but I'll capture it and do it in the full stream itself. I'll probably be able to get it done in the hour and a half or so that I want to do it. But this size right here where I'm at, this is probably the largest that I'll go to on a regular basis, just because I want to be able to finish it within a decent time frame and be able to still work on the other projects that I'm working on. But what's really cool is I'm going to get to see other people's models, and you indicated that you wanted some help. I'm guessing that was a model that was painted by your wife, if I'm not mistaken, right, Wraith Dancer? Cool. And she, I guess, wants some finishing touches to kind of bring it to a finish that she's happy with, and that's fair. I can do that. And like you say, if it's about 90% finished, we can chat about, or I can chat with your wife about where and what colors or what things she's expecting to see on it. Sometimes sometimes, like last week, Mark D indicated that he has a Mogun Raw that he wants me to do. I think he's going to be giving me full artistic creativity to be able to essentially repaint the model. Sadly, before we had proper paint, so it needs a hand. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. We can chat about that offline to identify what exactly you guys are expecting and looking for in to finish the model. But yeah, we're gonna make this a regular thing. I think it's pretty neat and pretty fun, and I'm looking forward to it. All right, so yeah, this is just me kind of coming in. The white primer that was on here. Typically, white primer really soaks up and really seeps up all of the paint for a particular color in the areas. Like if you're kind of getting around and you're not really paying attention to the the where the paint is going. Sometimes you can kind of quickly brush over and it looks like it's covered, but it's just like an air bubble or something that the red paint is kind of covering, or you're not getting directly into the recesses. So and the paint, the white primer kind of soaks up that paint so quickly that the red paint doesn't get a chance to get to all of the area that it needs to, so it just kind of gets soaked into there. And it's something that a lot of young painters end up doing is, they want to get it in there, and they're afraid of getting it in and making that mess over top of things, right? And right now, I'm not afraid at all of making a mess right now, because I'm going to be able to come back in and block in that ivory again with a nice wraithbone color to get that over top, right? So essentially, I'm working with a little bit of haste, and I'm not worrying too much about the details because I know that I'll be able to clean it up later. How's everybody's weekend? Are you working on something while you're sitting with us, Wraith Dancer? More pox? Nice. So now that you have an idea of what you wanted, like I'm guessing that was your first Poxwalker that you kind of finished, right? Am I mistaken in that? Okay. So now that you have an idea of the process for that, right? Of 48. That's right. That's what I'm going to get to. I'm going to help you out with a little bit of a kind of a mindset when you're working on it, right? Because you probably took a little bit of time in doing that model, and it's and not a lot of time. It's it looks like it's some nice washes that you got in there. You can see that sometimes washes really get into the model really well. The point that I'm making right now is you're going to want to assembly line them. Okay, so I know that you're not going to see a lot of big progress over the models while you're painting. However, you're going to see consistent progress. So as you start, putting down the dry brush or whatever color as the base coat for one of them, move to the next after you've done that. Don't move on to a wash. Don't move on to another color. Move on. Do it like 10 at a time, or even 5 at a time if you want to start that way. That way there, your progress is consistent and you feel like you're getting things done. It's huge for your psyche when you're working on one model at a time and you have that many to do and you finish one and you're like, yeah, I just finished one. Geez, I have 47 more to do, right? I have 46 more to do. After 2 or 3 of those, you're going to be like, oh, fuck, geez, I don't know if I even want to do this anymore. you're better off to take 5 at a time, do 5, one color, next color, then you have 5 done. Or even do 10 at a time, 10, then you have 10 done. That's okay, man. Being a slow painter is all right. So now take those times, right? So like, let's say it took you 2 hours to do that, but how long did it take you to put down the base coat for one of them, for that, right? And if it took you only like a couple minutes or 10 minutes, you know, like apply it across many of them so that you're seeing that little bit of progress. Hey, Leaf Lover, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for that comment. Yeah, absolutely, man. Like, you want to be able to see the progress on things. You don't want to feel like you're like spinning wheels and get to the point where you're like, I'm done with this project because I'm not seeing any progress, or I'm not feeling like there's any progress, right? At least with a small batches like that, you know, 5 to 10 at a time, you're gonna feel that progress. Okay, so looks like there's a little bit more red that needs to go in here. I totally forget the name of what this model is. I looked on Games Workshop's site. They don't actually sell the kit that this comes in. This was the starter set when Age of Sigmar first released. Do you remember at all, Leaf Lover or Wraith Dancer or anybody who's watching, what the name of this model is? Oh, I wanted to call it a Hellbrute, but that's the 40k version of it. And this is an Age of Sigmar Chaos Beast of kinds of sorts. I'm not even sure if it's a model that's, you know, able to be used in the setting anymore, but you know, I just want to get a sense of what it was called. Yeah, not long. I could have gotten more done. I had started priming another instead of watching it dry. Yeah, and again, like even with your primers, right? If you have models that are like just plastic, prime all of them. You know, it's really, really gratifying when you're working on something and you see, like, you know, if you have 20 models to do and they're all primed, it's a big psychological, you know, win for you to see all of those models done. It's really, really important in my mind to have that done. All right, I'm just getting this. Mighty Lord of Corn. I don't think so. I'm not sure what it's called. It's like a beast or something, or like a, I don't know. Like I said, I wanted to call it a Hellbrute, but it's not a Hellbrute. It's something like, I don't know. Anyways. Alright, so it looks like we got our red done. We're going to clean up some of the gold now. Get some of the brown stuff on there. I'm actually going to use again, contrast paints on some of my leather pieces. But I'm going to touch up my my bone pieces with the base coat wraith bone from the contrast paints baseline, and this should be fairly similar to what is currently on there, but just clean it up a little bit. Be a little bit more careful with this, just to make sure it gets on where I want it to be. Mighty Lord of Corn. Maybe that's what it's called. I might be totally off in saying that I don't think that is the case. Yeah, that's pretty close to what I'm looking for. I'm just making sure that it's all in on those areas that I know I want to capture with the... And this is a very different approach to last week's model, where I wanted to repaint the entire model. This one here, I'm just adjusting it a little bit, right? And that's the idea around around the series. Is like, there could be something that I fully repaint, or it could be something that I just take and touch up a little bit so that it looks really nice for you. The mighty Lord of Corn. The Bloodbound, on the other hand, have 2 units of 10 Blood Reavers, 5 Blood Warriors, a Korgath, and a Blood Stoker. I think, yeah, the Bloodbound. Is that the number? Is that the name of the units that are in that kit? It's either Blood Stoker or Korgath. I think it's a Korgath. Thanks for looking that up, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's probably a Korgath. I'm guessing that's what it is. Okay. Gonna get in and get some more detail on the... Okay, so I'm just coming in now and cleaning up all the skulls here now. Okay, all the elements that need to be cleaned up. So I'm just cleaning up all the hooves area. Right, so this is partly me being messy, partly the previous owner, in this case here, my stepson being messy on it. So it's just essentially just cleaning up all those little areas that I want to block off. And this is all I'm doing, is just blocking off right now, and just cleaning up those different areas. Oh, I know that red actually, so I'm just going to clean this up. This here is part of the skin, so I'm just going to make that red. Little dew claw. Something else that I like about having a wet palette is, your paint from the previous color is still wet, and you can kind of just quickly come in, clean it up nicely, and do it that way. That's from the AOS Blood and Thunder. Yeah, no problem. I'm a top student of UOG, University of Google. Also linked to information. Cool. Thanks, Wraith Dancer, much appreciated, buddy. Yeah, so this is a Korgath. Well, there we go. So taking the Korgath and finishing that model. I always not call model. Finish that mini. Okay, so back in here, clean up some more of this skulls. Super cool. I like this skulls are kind of underneath the skin of the model. I don't know, it's kind of disturbing and cool at the same time, I guess. Spiky bits that are kind of coming up. I'll make sure that those are ivory, so we can put that. So, being two of my regular viewers here, today I've actually launched and just put my videos back up on YouTube Live, and I think I'm going to really start to produce more videos, or like produce videos for YouTube that aren't actually just like, my streams. So my question to you, as my regulars, what would you like to see on YouTube if I was to put something up as a produced video? If you have ideas right now, go ahead and throw them out. Or if as you're thinking of them, don't hesitate to just like PM me or direct message me on Facebook, or even just throw it up as an idea as a post on on my Facebook page. Really wanting to make sure that, you know, my YouTube stuff will kind of stand out, so that it's not just another miniature painting channel. You know, like I want to make sure that it's unique. Now, you know, the finished at mini stuff, I'm probably gonna take the footage from my live streams and kind of produce and narrate those. Those are gonna be first steps. But like, what do you want to see? I think I might be wrong about this guy. I would love to see a cleaning mini and repaints or builds. So like cleaning it, like stripping it completely down and repainting from scratch, or like cleaning and building like I did my Sisters of Battle stuff. Like my Sisters of Battle first night of my stream, I built her on stream, like cleaning her, like actually taking the time to do, okay, strip it down. So from an existing model that was really badly done or something like that, stripped down, the process of that, and then the repainting of it. Okay, cool. That's a good idea. Some others do something similar already. You know, like I said, that eBay's Miniature Rescue guy that I was talking about. He's got something fairly similar where he'll either take the model and do something similar to what I'm doing and like just cleaning it up if it's in decent shape, or he'll take it and repaint it, like strip it down and repaint it completely. Which I'm not opposed to having this similar content to someone, just that I want to make sure that you know, I'm doing something that will stand out, that will you know, capture the audience and not be the same, to have to just say, like if eBay Miniature Rescues guys came to see me and said, hey, I want to see what this guy's doing, and it's like, oh yeah, he just does the same thing as eBay's Miniature Rescue and never kind of subscribe or come back to my channel. I want to make sure that it's something unique. So what can I do that offers that uniqueness? I know my character is unique, and my way in which I know the way in which I kind of explain and do things are my own. I live narrate my stuff, right? I'm doing it here, explaining what I'm doing as I'm doing it, which is nice, but just curious if there's something else I can do that would make me stand out. Alright, I'm almost done cleaning up this bone color. Something I did notice though is my feet down here. I'm gonna have to bring out that red again. I'm low on my paint, but my toes actually goes right down here. My toes go right down to the little clawsies. So I'm gonna do that. You could judge kitchen knives, well, juggle kitchen knives while you work. Good point though. Not sure what kind of hook you could do to speed strip the paint. Speed strip and paint. I won't be able to strip a model. I guess I could strip a model in a YouTube video. It does take a couple of days inside of the paint, like the stripper. I've actually just picked some up. Here we go. Speaking of which, just underneath my desk, just so happens that we have my paint stripper that I use, Simple Green B. Probably the best paint stripper that I've ever came across for acrylic paints. You know, you put that in a container, throw your models in for 2 days, you bring it out, and you like essentially just run warm water with a light toothbrush over top of those models for the most part. Some models, if they're sealed, or if there's any kind of sealer in between them, or if there was any hairspray used or anything like that, sometimes it's a little bit more difficult, takes a couple more days. But yeah, my entire collection of what is it? Harlequins were purchased for a very, very reasonable price, and I ended up just stripping them and putting them in there. Like what you're doing now, giving advice and instructions. Okay, yeah, that's cool. I like it as well. Like I say, I mean, it might be just like a, you know, I put a couple videos up with my personality and see how people react to it as well, right? I mean, sometimes people are drawn to a certain characteristic of person. Whether I'm like a stunning good looking man, or, you know, my character, my personality, and making sure that you guys are well taken care of is one of them. Speaking of which, Leaf Dancer, what are you working on today? Just coming in and joining us for fun, or are you working on a project? Go, got my leather stuff there. Oh, got some spiky bits right here. There's a few here. Cleaned up here. It's okay if I get a little bit into the recess of that like skin fold that's kind of coming out. Reason being is, as I'm going to be painting that, what's going to be great about it is the colors are going to recess in, like the contrast paints are just kind of gonna droop in there with the gravity, right? It's gonna kind of seep in almost like a wash. So that's the idea around that. Not worrying too much about something I do want to do though is I want to change the color of this. You can kind of see the design in his chest. I want that to be kind of like a different color. I'm not sure if I want it to be like a glowing orange or glowing yellow, or like a, but I want it to stand out from the skin. So I'm gonna come in and essentially just put in the recess, you know, a nice light coat of the wraith bone here, so that kind of picks up that color, or fills in that icon that's kind of gouged out of him. And I'll choose what color I want to put in there as an alternative. Maybe like a lava color. I'm uncertain. Go. All right, next up, I'm gonna fix up this gold. touch it up so that it looks a little bit more in place. Okay. So again, just kind of picking out and cleaning up where I want it to be, right? So as a young painter, my stepson didn't kind of see all of the edges of the object that he was painting, right? So he just saw, I'm going to paint it here, and he didn't see that, you know, it had like a back spot, a back piece, and a side piece, and a thing that kind of looks like it, like the different edges or the different planes of that object. And not a lot of people do take that into consideration when they're painting for the first time. They just look at, you know, painting the one surface that they predominantly see. And that's where Finish Dat Mini comes in. Come in, clean that up, make sure that all those edges are, all those planes are cleanly painted. You know, already you can kind of see that already cleans up that side of the model fairly drastically. You know, like just picking up those elements that were kind of missed. You know, the skin that, you know, had the little pieces missing on the edges of the white. This here, you know, there's not a lot of shading being done right now, but at least it's kind of cleaned up a little bit so that you can really distinctly see this is where the skin is, and this is where the bracer is, and this is where, you know, the claw is. It really picks it and cleans it up. And it's here. So I'm gonna put the metal pieces in gold. This here looks like leather, so I'm gonna actually come back in and paint that with my Wraithbone again, because I want that to be a leather color. And I'm gonna use snakebite leather from the contrast line to clean that up. So for those of you watching and are interested in getting one of your models finished in Finish Dat Mini segment, please don't hesitate to reach out and say hello. You know, give me a sense of what the idea you're looking at. I like to keep the model about this large, or smaller. We don't want anything too big. We do have a vehicle that's coming on for next week, but the model is already almost finished, and I'll make exceptions like that where you know, just needs a little bit of help to get to the polish stage, not essentially redoing the entire model or cleaning it up really much in that regard. So if you're interested, please make sure you drop me a line. Seeing that there's a couple more viewers online, so you know, don't let me know what you're working on. Leaf Lover, I asked what you were working on today, but you know, are you working on a model, any miniatures, housework, you know, just chores while we're sitting here watching? There we go. Watching golf, nice. So you're a golf lover. Have you been golfing long, or do you just like watching golf? Okay. most of what I want. Kind of cleaned up here. As mentioned, I want to come in and get these leather strips. The snakebite leather from the contrast really does a good job. Go a little closer in here too, because I think I missed out here a little bit. Make sure I don't hit his taint. It's been a few years. Okay. Is it a big tournament going on? Masters or something like that? That reason you're watching? I picked up golfing probably about, I want to say 20 years ago. The Open, oh cool. I picked up golfing about 20 years ago. My brother was a really avid golfer. And I'd golfed a couple times with him, just kind of to get a sense of it. But he passed away about 20 years ago, and I inherited his golf clubs. Now, something cool about the golf clubs that he had gotten was he wasn't a great golfer, but he enjoyed doing it, and it was a really nice kind of bonding experience between me and my brother, which was super cool. But what was super cool about my brother's golf clubs is that his golf his golf club case, I guess you call it a case, his caddy, this thing that you put the golf clubs in, his pack, whatever you want to call it, he had purchased it. He had gotten it purchased, actually. Somebody, like a cousin of ours, had gone to Scotland, to St. Andrews, I think it's called, the first golf course where golf was created. Anyways, and they got him the golf case for it. So my golf case is a golf case that was created and made in that area. Super cool, super neat, super kind of memorable for me. And I don't really golf, and I haven't golfed in about 15 years, so I took it up, played for about 5, and haven't really golfed since. But it makes it so that I don't ever really want to get rid of my golf clubs, because they're so sentimental to me. That's just how I feel. All right, so let's get some colors on here now. So I'm gonna do the skulls first. Gonna use my skeleton horde to get in there. Golf bag. There it is. Golf bag. Case. Golf bag. Pack. It's just a golf bag. Yes. Golf bag was from that golf course in Scotland, which was super cool. And it was really meaningful for my brother to have, and in turn, now pretty meaningful for me to have. So pretty nice to be able to say that I still have that. All right, so I'm just getting all the skulls, and I'm not worrying about getting over onto the going over on the skin, because the skin is going to be washed with a darker color. I'm not sure if I'm going to wash it or if I'm going to use the basilicum gray that I have in the contrast paints. But essentially, I might even put like the basilicum gray on in some of the deeper areas of where I'm painting these skulls right now. Maybe we should go out sometime. Are you? You're from Leaf Lover. I have to apologize. I'm really horrible if I haven't actually asked you or known this. Like, are you from this Greater Sudbury area? I'm not sure I'm putting a name to a face, and if you know, if I know you in real life, it'd be cool to know who you are. Espinola. Okay, cool. Oh, Leaf Lover. That's my... Yeah, I know who you are. I actually helped you make that handle as well. Wow. It has been such a long... it's been such a long couple weeks. Hey, sis, how you doing? Yes, I know, you're my sister. So sorry. Yes, absolutely. His golf bag was actually purchased from Scotland, right? Was it his golf bag? Something that he had was purchased in Scotland, and I can't bring myself to get rid of this clubs. So that would be really cool, sis. I would be happy to do that. Snicker, yes, thanks, Wraith Dancer, for doing that. Geez, my apologies, Leaf Lover. I see so many handles on here, and I'm really bad with names, so I'm really sorry. So yeah, this here is coming along really nicely with the colors of the contrast paints here. Have you done any other work on your Hobbit stuff, Leaf Lover? On your Lord of the Rings stuff? Any guess what year this mini was released? You're sure it's Age of Sigmar? I'm pretty sure it's Age of Sigmar. It would have been released the year that Age of Sigmar was first released. Actually, it's the starter set for that. I know that Leaf Lover is probably thinking, oh geez, he didn't even remember the handle's name. And I'm sorry, I really am. I feel horrible. Not lately. That's what this channel is for, though, Leaf Lover. It's for you to sit and get your hobby stuff done. Whether it's hobbying with models or hobbying with other things. Or you could just watch TV too. I appreciate the father. You watching while doing whatever. I mean, you don't have to do the hobby stuff, but there we go. It's starting to look pretty cool already, right? So I mean, I'm gonna come in and clean it up a little bit, but you can see that those bone colors. I'm gonna do a little bit of a highlight or dry. I'm actually gonna probably do a little dry brush on the bone colors, just to kind of raise that white color a little bit more. I'm getting the leather on his horns as well with the skeleton stuff, but I'm going to come back over with that, as I said, that snake bite leather. All right. I will never forget now Leaf Lover and who Leaf Lover is. I think it's just that I'm used to not seeing you as you're chatting and on here. So you weren't chatting before we made your profile, which I'm happy that we've done now, so you can chat along while you're in here. Okay. Any requests for some music? Please go ahead and find a YouTube channel, YouTube video, post it up, put it in. Happy to put that in there.
I can't see you, but I can feel you all the time.
So for the tentacles coming out, I'm gonna make those a little bit more like pink, like a purplish kind of tentacle. But it looks like all of the bone areas are pretty much done. So I'm gonna do a couple of little hooky little things down here. Next up, I'm gonna do the leathers. Unless they reworked Korgath soon after primary release, this mini doesn't exist online. No. Geez. You know what? Look for a starter box, like a Age of Sigmar starter box. If you don't mind. All right. So gonna get some leather colors here. Snakebite leather. If they did, you might want to get a glass case for it, you know? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. There was lots of these guys out and about. In a boot. I'm not really painting it to the greatest of standards either, so I mean... Getting it to a tabletop so that's nice and... nice to be able to be used. I'm just gonna, because I know I'm putting in a little bit of a dry brush on these skulls up here. Just putting a little bit of this darker snakebite leather in there as well, so that makes it a little bit deeper in there. Go. Was it 2015 that Age of Sigmar came out? I think it was even earlier than that, man. Yeah, let's do a quick search. Age of Sigmar. Okay, so it's actually called Age of Sigmar. So
some strings. Never worry about a ride. Spend a bag and make it back. Easy living, that's a fact. You haven't seen tag. Yeah, I think I'm coming down.
Are we back? Jezebel, how are you? I am using some contrast paints today to get this guy going. Yeah, absolutely. It's a big help on making things done. So definitely this is a Korgath model. So I'm gonna lighten those guys up a little bit more. What I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna darken the actual skin tones. So I'm gonna bring in the Basilicum Gray and darken the red. So I want it to be like almost like a dark reddish gray. So I'm just gonna kind of thin down the contrast paint in this case because I don't want it to be overpowering on that red, right? So in this case here, I just want it to be kind of deepening the color of it. And what's really cool is with the contrast like this is it should just kind of fall into the recesses of all of like the different like imperfections on the skin when it's wet like this, when it's kind of thinned down like this, and it just really becomes a cool kind of effect. You see how dark it is, and then when it dries it'll be super cool. His head from the extra bits then, yes, absolutely. So the Korgath, it's like the skulls from, it's the skull from something else. So you see the bottom piece, I'm guessing that's probably what it was. I didn't realize that it was actually a kit bash, just because, you know, like I said, I purchased it from an auction several years ago, and you know, my stepson had actually painted it. It was already assembled when we got it, so something to kind of keep in mind. So cool. All right, we figured it out. It is a Korgath, just not the exact build of a Korgath, of the Korgath model. I have a bunch of those heads. These guys with the... That's cool. What kit are they from, Jezebel? And welcome to the stream. What are you planning on working on today while we're watching? And what I'm gonna do is, this is gonna be cool. I'm just gonna let the dark color, I think the Basilicum Gray, get into that icon on the front as well, and it'll just make it like a gray as opposed to red, which I think will be a nice kind of effect that it does. All right, everyone. So what we're gonna do is we're at a point where we've got a few people on. I don't know where it's from. I swap bags of bits with people all the time. Steve gave them to me. That makes sense. All right, so for those of you watching here today and wanting to get a chance to win this young lady when we're done painting her. All right, that's her so far. We're gonna do a little bit of a raffle. So all of you, yeah, gonna try some contrast on some Tyranids. Yeah, it's really, really good on Tyranids. Like I say, like that Broodlord that I did was super fun to do. I actually I was assembling some more Gene Stealers for a commission I'm doing. So I have about 40 Gene Stealers and a couple of Hormigons and more Broodlords. It'd be super cool. So here we go. Let's do this. We're going to do a S raffle, and it says that we're going to be giving away an Abaddon the Despoiler. However, it is for a sister of battle, Sister Superior. That's this guy, young lady right here. So we take a look, focused in. The color that I used and the contrast that I used on the armor, really happy with that technique, and it really highlighted the model well. Super cool. So I'm stoked about kind of coming in and doing some of the details with it. So doing that in a little bit after my break, after I'm done with this model here. Yeah, the Brute Lord looks amazing. Yeah, thanks Jezebel. Really, I'm really happy with how the contrast paints are working out for some of the models, and the natural like textures of models, the way they come through, super cool. Okay, so what's nice about this also is it provides me, that black line that I don't typically get to do with some of the washes that I have. In this case here, the brown of the skulls or the hoofs, you can see I'm overlapping to get the black line, the dark line that meets the red and the brown, as opposed to just having to come back and do a black line with a darker color in there. So this contrast paint is kind of getting that black line for me, right, around all of these spikes and whatnot. The challenge with this though is, the only thing that I have a challenge with is just kind of making sure that I do it in a time frame that doesn't create any kind of brush strokes, right? You don't want it to dry, and you want to make sure that it gets all over the model that you want to darken or whatever, and make sure it gets into all of the different crevices, so I don't have to come back and it be kind of a pain in the butt to get to. All right, so with that, also I'm just going to kind of pop in a little bit about dark in some of those areas at the top here where I know it's pretty deep in color, right? So I'm just essentially darkening that skull brown that's used there. Do the same in the eye sockets, right? Kind of blend and make sure that this is all here. But again, remember, I'm going to come back and do a little bit of a dry brush over some of that bone area to make it really pop out a little bit more. Gonna run in 40 minutes. Yeah, no problem, right answer. There we go. Okay, so while all of that is drying, I am gonna get the pinky kind of purplish tone that I want to, and I'm just, see how what I did there? It was starting to pool into the cleft of the hoof there. I'm just kind of coming in and using just a wet brush to pick up some of that extra stuff that's pooling where I don't want it to be. Don't forget to join there, Jezebel. For the raffle is over. Exclamation mark join will get you in on the raffle to get an extra entry. I'm going to be doing a couple of things differently in this one. Jerica! Nice to see you, Jerica. Thanks for joining in. A couple of things that I'm going to do differently on this for this giveaway also is, I'm going to be rewarding people who are sharing and chatting in line in the text as well. Like not only being engaging in the actual streams that I'm doing, but engaging and kind of helping out in distributing and sharing the posts that I put on my social medias. So in Instagram and Facebook, I'll be putting up topics and pictures and works in progress of the Sister Superior. But we're I'm gonna reward the people who are linking and sharing the posts, not just the people who are linking my pages and whatnot. It's really helpful, but I just want to kind of help engage and expand the community a little bit more. All right, so coming into the pink and purple stuff. So I am actually going to use the contrast Magos Purple on this one. Get this in. It's kind of like a purpley color on these tentacles. Super neat, super easy. You know, anything that's kind of like a natural color, these contrast paints do really well with. Like, look at this color that comes in on this. All I did was the ends and the tips were already painted with a blood red. Actually, it was blood for the blood god. My stepson really enjoyed the blood for the blood god, and was putting it in on all of the models that he was painting. This was a few years ago, so he was a little bit younger. He was like 10 years old. And what's super cool is, as I put this on now, this purple, look at how the actual tentacles look tentacly, right? Nice and purple, kind of cool. Let me see it. There we go. It's really neat to see some of the things like that. All right, something else I'm going to do, I'm just kind of picking up on, is I'm going to give a different tone or a different shade to these guys here. I'm going to darken them up a little bit. Essentially, I'm just going to put in that basilicum gray so that they don't look like bone, they look like something else, right? They look like it's kind of like a living demon coming out of there, out of his shoulders here. Yeah, so definitely some bone on it, but kind of like the carapace. I think I'm just going to keep it gray. I'm also going to do some darker tones, kind of giving me some of those deeper areas of like the teeth, where the teeth meet the skull. And all I'm doing is just kind of wiping that off. But you see, it gives a nice darker tone where the teeth meet the skull. Same thing with these teeth up here. There we go. Okay. Next up, I'm going to do a wash on the gold. Now, I'm going to stay tried, tested, and true with my technique for washing of the gold. We're going to use Reichland Flesh Shade. I am going to use the glossy kind though today, because I want the actual gold to be, a lot shinier, so that it just kind of stands out a little bit more. So I'm just doing a Reichland Flesh Shade wash now on the gold areas, picking them out. Now notice that as we're starting to do this, this is where things are starting to get a little bit more tricky. The whole model is essentially wet with paint. And because of that, some things are going to bleed a little bit. I'm not worried too much. The reason being is when the wash is all dry, I'm going to come back to the model and touch up some of those little areas with like highlights and areas to be able to kind of make sure that I clean that up, like where the black kind of hits the top of this like kind of cod piece. I'm gonna come back in with my gold and clean that up once it's dry. So essentially, all I'm doing is just washing the whole model almost, even with those contrast paints. The wash, the texture of them, and the way in which they kind of flow into the model and just hit all those recesses, it's almost like a wash. But now, Jerka, thank you. We'll be here waiting for you. And grats on that, Jerka. Kusei Rock. Hey, how you doing? How's your Sunday afternoon? Are you doing some hobbying with this heat outside, staying cool? And I will make sure that I make note of Jerka as a winner of the next giveaway. There we go. Giveaway. We have Jerka. Chair Ika. There we go. So yeah. All right, the model is wet. I don't want to do my dry brush because it's not going to look like a dry brush. Actually, it might actually blend a little bit better. Decisions. Good. Just got out of bed. Nice. That's a good problem to have. Just getting out of bed. I wish. Was it a rough night last night for you? So I am going to I think I'm gonna do like a wet brush and use that Elfic Flesh maybe. Okay, it's almost like an ivory. It's a little bit whiter, a little bit lighter than like a bone or an ivory. And I'm gonna take my larger brush here, and I'm just gonna kind of get most of the paint off and just hit those edges that I know I want to kind of hit. So again, just kind of getting this to like a tabletop standard, right? So I'm just hitting the edges. Now I'm doing it while it's wet so that it kind of blends really well together. And it might not necessarily work out for me in some of the areas, but like these areas down here where I know I want this to be a little bit whiter, a little bit lighter, sorry. Whiter, lighter, same thing. I'm gonna put it in. All I'm doing is putting the paint on my brush, taking most of it off, and just kind of brushing it where I kind of know I want it to be. I'm not putting it on those areas with a lot of like precision, but I'm also making sure that as I'm putting it on, I'm not getting it on the red areas, I'm not getting it on the gold areas, right? So it's kind of like giving it an edge highlight almost. And blending it so that it's nice and light, making the color pop a little bit more instead of just being like very muted for it. Just kind of getting the bone areas. In this case here, I'm just going to do the tips of his horns here. I'm not going to worry about and if I need to, I'll just use my finger, kind of get that cleaned off. Bones area, do the same thing up in here in the skulls. You can kind of see. Went to a punk metal show last night, then watched a live DJ at a different place after that L5R until 4:30 a.m. Wow, nice, dude. It was kind of a busy night for you then, to say the least. So on my big spiky areas down here, again, just I'm kind of getting a sense of dry brush, but not quite. It's like a wet brush to do it. Just kind of hitting those areas that are nice and raised while it's still wet so that it blends a little bit. So this is not a technique that I would use in like, you know, a nice showcase piece, but it's definitely working for this model here so far. You can kind of see that the bone color is really kind of predominant now, and it's nice and kind of highlighted. The red is dark and deeper with the way I wanted it to be. I'm gonna come in and re-highlight a couple of areas with some reds, but that's cool. Alright. Coolio. And the purple is nice. Sweet. Okay, so I gotta let that dry down. I can do a couple of things. Looks like the base was nice. It's a nice, kind of looks like a rock almost on there. You know who put this base on? It wasn't me. So let's do something while this is drying. Let's paint a Sister Battle. So last week I did the silver on her as the last part, as well as the red. We're gonna go ahead and put in some wash now. So for me, I'm gonna use a Nulin oil on the wash. Oil. That's gonna get into the areas that I need it to be. Something really cool, I'm gonna actually open up this brand new paintbrush that I got last weekend. When I won the tournament, I got a gift card for the local gaming store, and I picked myself up a new medium artificer brush. And this is what I'm going to use today on this model. Okay, so we're just going to apply the wash on those silver areas so that it gets into the recesses. I'm not going to overload. I'm gonna try something really cool. I've got like a metallic, kind of almost like a pearl iridescence color. Actually, it's just like a medium. So it's something that you add to any color to make it look metallic. So what I'm going to do when I do her rosary, I'm gonna paint it white, and then I'm going to do the metallics on it. Gotta go, we'll be back. Awesome, thanks Leaf Lover, see you soon. So embarrassing for me to not realize that you were my sister. So I apologize again to everybody that's here before you go. So funny. Those of you joining us, since that whole ordeal, we were talking about, golf, and Leaf Lover was watching golf today. And I'll share the story because it's amusing. And, I was like, oh, cool. I took up golf, 20 years ago. When my brother passed away, ended up, inheriting his golf clubs, and really happy that I have the golf clubs. And his golf bag was, a golf bag that he had gotten purchased while, our cousins were in Scotland at St. Andrews golf course, and, the whole 9 yards. I was like telling them the story, telling Wraith Dancer and Leaf Lover the story. And, I said, but I haven't really been golfing that much. I haven't golfed, since I took it up and I played for 5 years, but I haven't golfed in the last 15. So Wraith Dancer says, yeah, we should go out. And I'm like, oh, are you in and around the greater Sudbury region? She's like, yeah, I'm in Espanola. And that's where it clicked. My sister lives in Espanola. And like 4 or 5 weeks ago, I helped her make a Twitch account. And the Twitch account's name was LeafLover98. And it just, Leaf says, yes. And I'm like, I totally slipped my mind that I actually helped my sister make an account so that she can watch my stream. And that was the name of it. And it's just like, yeah. I was really embarrassed. I still am. So, yeah. That's that. Fun times. Fun times. Alright, so the silver's nice and washed in there. Alright, so vote from everyone online right now. I am curious, what color should I do her hair? Yeah, it was amazingly awesome to watch that unfold. Yes, it was, and it was fun. Like my face must have became the color of my shirt. I was like, I'm so sorry. This is it was my sister watching it here. I didn't even know that it was her. Damn, I feel like a dink. Good times. All right, so that's there. That's all washed in. I don't want to get too close to that. So let's wash the actual red as well. I'm gonna do an Argax Earthshade on that one. The reason I do Argax Earthshade on red is because it's like an earthy tone. Red hair, cool. All right, we'll do a red hair. Yeah, we can do a red hair. Let's do that. I vote lighter electric blue or black with white highlights. Okay, black with white highlights. That's pretty much like box art, right? That's the color that you're explaining, Race answer? You like to see the more like a box art color? Alright. So with this wash on the red, I'm not liberally putting it on. I'm just getting it on so that the red base coat that I have, the recesses of the cloak get that red a little bit. Because I'm going to be re-highlighting with red and bringing it right to the top, right to the nice bright red. But because I want it to be in like an earthy tone, because I'm gonna highlight with like a red and like a blood red, and then up to almost like an orange on it to make it really stand out in contrast. Probably gonna do some wet blending on it, but because yellow is almost like a warm tone. Rather than a cool tone, I want my earth to be like my shadows to be very contrasting for that. Kind of traditional, yeah. Jezebel votes red. Do we have anybody else online want to chime in on this? So we got 2 reds, 1 white. Gonna let this kind of go until 1:20, and then based on the number of people who voted either red or white, we'll do that. Do that, whatever color that is. Love democracy. I'm okay either way. I really could care less. So that's. Alright, so wash is done on the silver pieces. Wash now is done on the other pieces, on the red. Just gonna kind of come in and put a little bit more wash in on these. Gonna do a little highlight on them. Get it darker. Just want this to be. Okay, so that's there. That's washed. I don't want to hit that with any other colors, so we're gonna go into and could take the colors from Abby's torch and fire her up. Yeah, that's essentially the same color scheme that I'm thinking of for the red, having like almost like an orangish red kind of color, but it'll definitely look red for sure. That's what I think the plan is. Where did I just put my wash? There we go. Alright, let's get a little bit of Reichland flesh shade in here. Go to a nice small brush. Alright, so I'm just gonna lightly wash her face from the color that she has. And I'm really intentional on where I'm putting the wash. I'm not just putting it over the whole face. Putting it into the shadows where I need it to be. Now before I do the hair, I'm going to do the face, right? Because I don't want to have to get flesh tones on a nicely colored hair that I've done. Okay, so that was a nice light wash. Let that dry, and we'll come back to it. Could take the colors from Abby's torch, source lighting, level 100, engage. Yeah, that was super fun. I enjoyed doing that source lighting. I would always want a red head, so there you go. Red-haired sister of battle. It is. All right. Let that dry. I'm wondering if I want to pick out the gold pieces right now. I think I want to hold off just because some of them are really close to the wash that I put on, the Newland oil. I'm going to give it a couple minutes. I'm going to kind of come back to that. We're going to go to this color, this guy right here. All right. Something super cool about this is the marble that I'm going to do. I just started with a base coat and a base color. And we're going to put in some of those streaks and those So all I'm doing right now, right, I took some black wash, right, and I'm just kind of creating, and it's just kind of putting random patterns along this white thing. And this random pattern, after it dries, I'm going to come in and repeat the process over and over and over again. And what it should do, especially with, you know, a very thin color like this, like a wash, right? Can also make sure that I clean up those edges of that so that around it looks nice and clean. You can kind of see where I'm going here. Let me zoom in here so you guys can see. That's a little better. So essentially what I'm doing here now, so I'm just kind of, this is what I'm doing around the outside of that white color so that it cleans it up a little bit, so I can really see the standout white that's there. Okay, so it makes it stand out a little bit more, right? And with that, those patterns kind of on there really lightly done, I'm just going to come in and repeat over that same pattern. And what you'll see is, over those patterns that I'm applying multiple times, it's not even a pattern, it's just like a random kind of, like the veins of a, almost like the veins of like a marble, right? And I'm just coming in and lightly putting in more and more. I can even darken it up. Oh, Christ Gaming, how's you going, man? I'm getting a, nice to see you online. Getting this young lady's base all kind of done up here. We're essentially starting the process of marbling this area here. So I'm just kind of coming in and putting these light veins and spreads so that I get a marbled effect on here. It's just making sure that you're not overdoing it with those colors, right? That dark color. So in this case here, you know, I want it to be a white marble, but a white marble typically has like black veins of, or very dark gray veins of the actual stone kind of going through it. And all I'm doing here is just kind of creating those veins. And you can kind of see. And then it's almost looking like a marble. Good. Just playing some Final Fantasy, what is that, 26, 24? 14. Final Fantasy 14, getting ready to do some airbrushing. Nice. What are you going to be working on with the airbrush this afternoon? I hate Roman numerals. 10, 4, and then 5. Okay, so with that being done now, not really done, but I'll come back to it for some more effect. I'm gonna come back in, do a little bit more on her face here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put in our colors again. So I want this to be a nice light color. I've got my medium tone, darker tone, and we'll go lighter tone with my white, white, white. All right, so I'm gonna get some super light highlights here on. Her. So let's get her in. Let's get this zoomed out so everybody can see. All right. Priming poxwalkers to get ready to contrast them in some detail work and some freehand black lighting. Nice. Alright, so just getting some nice highlights on the tops of her. Kind of off topic, but been messing around with Battlescribe. I've units from Rogue Trader, Nurgle Army, and the question I have, do I need to make a whole new roster for them because they're kill team units? Can't seem to add them to my current roster. Awesome, oh Christ, working at a batch of 48 right now. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, there might be some special rules around the use of those Rogue Trader models, in that they have to be in a certain detachment, and that detachment needs to be either a Death Guard detachment or a Nurgle Demon detachment. So I would take a look and see, and take a look and read the actual rules around those, Wraithancer. It might be worthwhile to take a look at it from that perspective. Might be the different detachment. I might be totally wrong though too. I haven't really seen those other than the game that we played. I haven't seen those models used in any of the Games Workshop or any of the 40k armies that I've ever faced. All right, at this time here also, I'm actually gonna start. I'm gonna get the actual eyes kind of started. So let's do this. Let's zoom you in so you can see where you're going. So essentially, in this case, I'm gonna get in. That's a little pixelated, isn't it? It's not so bad, but we'll get this back up. There we go. So with eyes, I kind of like being a little bit more sloppy with them. So essentially, what I'll do is I'll come in and grab that eye and put it in that entire socket, that white color. Essentially, kind of getting the whole socket white. And what that does for me is, one, it makes sure the entire eye is painted. Right? But two, forces me to come back and clean up the model where I need it to be, cleaned up. So all around, I'll put the nice light colors in there. I see. Yeah, I figure I should just bench them for kill team only. It's your call, man. Like, they're useful and they're used to be able. You can put them in an army if I'm not mistaken, but it has to be in a certain detachment type. If I'm not mistaken, it has to be Nurgle Demons. I'm almost useless for 40k knowledge right now. That's all good, no Christ. I'm exactly the same on Age of Sigmar. All right, so there we go. So with red hair, Kusei, what color eyes do you like to see on your Sisters of Battle? We'll do it that way. We've gotten a red-haired person. This is going to be a red-haired Sister of Battle. What color eyes? Maybe like a green. How about an aqua blue? Nice light color. Let's do it that way. Hopefully you approve, Kusei. We'll do it that way. We'll do it that way. reminds me of a Backstreet Boys song here. All right, let's get this in here. So what I'm doing here is just coming in and putting a nice little dot where the pupil would be shown there. And again, I'm not worrying about being very clean with this. Right? That color, that eye color, just needs to make sure that if she's looking at me, she's looking at me straight, which she's not right now. LOL, blue. Yes, blue. All right, so in this case here, she's looking a little cross-eyed, so I'm gonna take a little bit of white paint and essentially get her on this side. All right, that one eye looks good, you can see. Let's see what that looks like, come on. Her left eye looks great. Her right eye, I just kind of botched up, so that's okay. We've got our happy little mistakes here, as Bob Ross once used to say. And we'll come back in and clean that up. So I botched it, I put the white back on, and we're gonna get a different angle here. Make sure she stays in there. Alright, different angle, here we go. Coming at it this way here. Again though, I still don't need to make sure that it's so you'll see, you can kind of see, like her whole recessed area is all white right now. She got punched in the face. She got punched in the face. All right, but what I did was I put essentially like this. If I was trying to paint my eyes right now, I put my paint like this, and it's all white right here, right? And I put the little dots, and now what I'm gonna do is it's a lot easier for me to come in from the edges to kind of pick out and clean up those areas, as opposed to trying to be super precise with those little eyeballs, right? It's such a small scale that you don't want to be. I have to be PG. You don't want to be messing around with that stuff. You want to be able to come back to and clean up around instead of figuring out how to put in like the microscopic little dot of what that pupil should be looking like, right? So that's just that. All right, so I'm seeing that there's a little bit of a spike in viewership right now. So we got 8 people watching. Ooh, what are you saying, Brush Jockey? Are you saying that you're gonna do a giveaway? Damn straight I am. We're gonna go ahead and put in another single raffle for this. So as people are watching, because, you know, people are, we're gonna do another raffle. And it says that we're getting an entry into an Abaddon model. No, we're not. We're gonna actually give it away for the Sister Superior model. So as you type in join right now, !join, you're gonna have your name entered into a draw for a raffle ticket, which you'll be added up to and get an extra chance of winning this young lady when I do give her away. If I win the giveaway, can you drive it down here and also bring me Taco Bell? I can ship it to you, oh Christ, I have no problem doing it that way. Yeah, maybe we can do Taco Bell together sometime. Get together and talk about that collab that we're gonna do. We do want to do that 1 hour challenge still. I'm still thinking about that. So yeah, Cleveland Express, nice of you to join. Thanks for coming on. Jerica's back. Thank you so much. I wonder if I can ship Taco Bell. I bet you it might have staying power. If we pay for 1 day shipping, it might get to you, and you still might be able to eat it that same day, even the next day. I probably wouldn't put it past that. All right, I want to make sure that those eyes are really, really dry before I start messing around with the color that I can bring back in and around, right? So I'm going to let that dry for about 10 to 15 minutes. But we're going to come back to my Finish Dat Mini model. So the Finish Dat Mini model is this. I even forget what the name of it again is. Wraith Dancer. It's a Korgath with a different head. So with the Korgath here, and it seems like it's a little bit more dry. My wash of my gold is still wet, but I'm going to come in and do a little bit of cleanup on some of the areas that I want to clean up. So first and foremost, I'm going to do a little bit of highlighting, and that's going to be done with a red Model Air from Vallejo. This is just going to be kind of like highlights, edge highlights on the actual skin itself. So I'm going to come in and around and get it on that model. Korgath, yes, Korgath. Thank you again, Wraith Dancer. I got to take off for a bit, back ASAP. Yeah, absolutely, Wraith Dancer. We'll be here, man. Here till 3 o'clock today. So, go drop the kitties off and come on back. We're happy to see you back when you do come back. All right, so all I'm doing here with this is kind of hitting some of the edged areas, or the things that might be recessed. They're a little bit more predominant on the kind of edges of the skin here. All this is just kind of a way to make the skin pop a little bit more, as opposed to just being a muted black color. Just coming in arbitrarily, kind of putting it in on some of the areas. Now, I want to be able to just focus on areas that are noticeable from a viewer when the model's on the table. So I'm not worrying about undersides of stuff. I'm just kind of hitting edges of the skin, around the actual openings here, kind of scars that might be there. I might even come back in with some pinks for those scars in a little bit to kind of make it look like they're kind of like a scarred tissue, as opposed to just the skin kind of coming over. But essentially, all I'm doing is smoothing out some of that contrast paint that I put on there, right? So I'm not doing just contrast paint alone. I got some of this layered paint on top of it to kind of really give a raised area on there. Got to take off, absolutely, Jerica, no problem. We'll see you shortly. If you do come back, we will be here. Awesome. How we doing on our raffle? 375 seconds. It seems like eternity. Okay. Again, I'm not worrying about undersides of things. I'm not worrying about too much down on his legs. I want the focus to be the top upper torso, right? So that's where I'm drawing those attentions, because this is just a tabletop mini, right? And I want that focus. I want the nice kind of clean details to be shown up on this side of the model, as opposed to on the bottom side. I don't want anybody seeing, oh, there's really great details on the legs and calves of this model. Well, yeah, like, do you look at my calves when I'm talking to you? Hell no. Hell no. All right, and then, being really careful and cautious around the kind of symbol that's up here. What's nice is the symbol itself, as I put the lighter color inside, kind of got some of the edges of that. So it was a little bit lighter and white. When I put the contrast paint on, it still kind of kept that light color on the edges. And what's nice about it is, as I put this red on, kind of really just picks them out a little bit more. Something that's useful when you're looking at painting as well is if you put a little bit of a lighter color down and then want to come back later with an overtone, essentially kind of glazing over, it really brightens that area up. It's what I use for how I use the technique I used essentially for object source lighting. Put down a white, really thin, light, white, transparent color on something, and then, you know, the actual source lighting color on top of that. Raffle for an entry giveaway, 250 seconds. Wow. Eternity. I'm not gonna fully discredit the calves and, you know, the quadriceps up here. Do a little bit of highlight just to kind of smooth some of that out. But we get up in here. There we go. Down, down. There we go. Okay. Gonna do something here. Something that I wasn't able to do with the wet brush kind of that I was doing is just get the raised areas of the horn here. All right. Just want to kind of bring these up a little bit. Clean up some of the areas like this. Some of the edges of the. Some more of the edges of the skeletons, the skulls in here. Just kind of picking out those details. $125 seconds left. Get your name in. All right. So it looks like this gold and this gold down here is dry. I'm gonna clean that up a little bit. After my wash, I come back in with the same gold just to kind of re-highlight. Just get in between some of those areas that you don't want it to be super. Even come back in with like a silver on there to get the edges on that too, just to kind of give it a nice pop. And just kind of getting those flat areas. Actually, I'm gonna go even one step further. So I got that washed. I want the underneath to be like a gray. There we go. Back to our awesome Stream Elements Cleveland Express has 1 hour entry into the giveaway. Cleveland Express, I'm gonna put you in on my piece here. Cleveland Express, Cleveland Express. Don't forget Cleveland Express, if you're not already a follower, go ahead and follow me just so that I can have you as a contact in there so I can get in touch with you if you do end up winning the actual draw when we draw for the Sister of Battle. Okay, so thank you and congratulations for that win. All right, so we're gonna come back into some contrast here. So contrast paint, we're gonna come back into that basilicum gray, and we're going to try something out here. I want that recessed area to be dark, like a gray almost. So what I'm doing is putting in basilicum gray just in those areas. So see what I'm doing here? I'm just putting it into those recessed areas of the armor plating. And I want it to still look goldish, but not the same kind of sheen as the kind of like the raised and embellished areas. Right? So I'm just gonna putting this in here. And then when this all dries, what I'll do is I'll come back. This is when I'll come back and touch up just the embellished areas on the top. Right? So this will dry nice and dark. So same thing up over here. This dark. Is a nice. I think the look and feel of that will be super cool. Still a little bit wet, but I can still get it in there. There we go. Okay, coolio. Something I'm also gonna do is just get some darker colors right in here. This here. Reason being is I want maybe a dark distinction between the leather and the horn. So I'm just kind of doing that shadow, that shade that gets thrown in there. Contrast paints. They don't taste too bad. Definitely taste different than regular acrylics. Pretty gross. Kind of like a mix between a wash and an acrylic. Alright, there we go. That's looking pretty decent for a fix-up model, huh? Alright. So let's go ahead and paint the base here real quick. So let's get this down. And then we'll come back to my sister battle because I think my face is ready to get going on there. Okay, so let's get nice. Go. So essentially, I'm just taking my base color black and almost washing it onto the base here itself. The reason I'm doing that is just so that it goes nice into all of the recesses on this base. This is a base that the Korgoth was on when I purchased it, which is a custom base somebody had made. Kind of a neat little thing. Some roots coming out of the ground. It was green stuff. The rock over here, if I'm not mistaken, was also green stuffed, or it was the actual color. If I'm not mistaken, this was all on a regular base. So yeah, this was all. The reason I'm just kind of washing it on is so that what looks like the stone on the base this kind of comes through, so I can dry brush it a little bit more without too much work, going from a dark black color to the color of the stone that I'm going to want it to be. Shades taste gross. Yes, shades do taste really nasty, Jezebel. Probably the worst kind of taste. I don't know what it is that they have in there that's just nasty. I mean, I've tasted a number of paints over my years of painting, but nothing as bad as a shade. we go. Let's pay a little bit more special attention to the rim of the base when the actual base is done, but there we go. Gonna get some browns on that area. All right, so now let's go and jump back over to our sister superior here. Let me make sure my hands are clean of any wash before I pick her up. Okay, so now I'm gonna come back in and clean around those eyes, right? So as I mentioned, I'm gonna, let's get it out of the way so I'm not picking up on that. I'm gonna zoom in just a little bit. All right, so how is that for clean? Can you guys see that? It's really, really pixelated, isn't it? Here, what I'm gonna do is this. I'm gonna come back out. Where's my colors here? Just 1 second, guys. All right, so there we go. All right, here we go. This is probably nice and clean. Yeah, there we go. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to clean up around her eyes, right? And then I'll show her after I've done a little bit of a cleanup. I've already got my colors down on the paint tray here. So I'm gonna take a nice little brush here, and I'm gonna take my darker tone. Okay. Because this is the recessed area of the eyes, right? It's a little bit more shaded. Shinra President. Hey, Shinra President. Haven't touched a miniature or paint in 18 years. I got a lot of questions if you're ready. Absolutely, Shinra. I've been painting probably steadily for about the past 35 years. I am by no means a professional. However, I do like to help people out. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, buddy. All right, so for this one here, we are going to clean up around her eyes now. So remember, what I did was I put like essentially a white kind of streak across her eye. I put the color in now, and all I'm doing now is I'm coming in and cleaning up around that eye. So I'm gonna make sure that I don't hit that color, right? And I just clean up that white piece that I had in there. Very deliberate and very specific on where I'm cleaning this up. So what I'm doing also, you'll notice that as I'm painting this here, I'm taking off any extra paint that I have. I still have paint on my brush, but it's very, very thin and very, very controllable, right? I love the cloak, by the way, really striking. On this model right now, yeah, we've got so far so good. Yeah, we're in the process of getting it a lot better. We're gonna be bringing it up to a nice bright color. So. Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate the comment. Oh, this little thing? So something I'm gonna need to do here is just kind of clean this up, put this back in. I drilled a little hole for her to stand in, but she keeps on falling out. Okay, so now, you can kind of see the eyes that I've cleaned them up, and they're only the white little pieces with the tan around it now, right? So the same thing is gonna go. I'm going to kind of essentially lighten this up a little bit, this skin tone, right? And I'm gonna hit those highlighted areas a little bit. What are some of your questions, Shinra? Okay. I'm also going to, so the cheek areas of a model of a face are typically a little bit more red, because this is where most of that blood essentially is kind of in there. So essentially I'm just coming in with a really nice light tone of red around her cheeks, really thin. Can also attempt to answer questions. Absolutely. Oh Christ is another streamer. He's been also painting for a while, so we're happy to help out here. Okay, so I have 10 small models I want to paint. I do plan on stripping and learning. I just want to learn and practice on these GW because it's so expensive. Okay, yeah. Would it be better served learning by focusing one model at a time or batch sections? Okay, so I just want to clarify and make sure that I have your question correct. So you have multiple models that you want to paint. And these 10 models, are they the same models? Or are they similar models, like an army style thing? Or is it like Ral Partha or like Dungeons & Dragons miniatures that you're looking at? Because if you're looking at Dungeons & Dragons style miniatures where the poses and the models are different, yes, army style, very similar, 10 small guys. Okay, cool. So you have them all done and ready to go. So first and foremost, are you in Canada or North America? So if so, I would suggest getting something like this. This is simple green. Okay, this is what I use to strip my models. Yeah, learn in batch painting first and foremost. So I'm gonna get into that in just a second. So simple green is what we use. It's a cleaner. I use it extensively and solely for stripping plastic miniatures. What you're going to do is you're going to put the models in there for 2 or 3 days, take them out, and with a very warm kind of water and a light, soft toothbrush, you'll be able to strip off all of that paint. Okay, so that's number 1 for you. Number 2, let it dry extensively. So clean it really well after that with that brush. Let them dry very well. You're gonna put your primer down. Your primer is gonna be placed, and you can use any type of primer that you want. I suggest some Army Painter primer or the Games Workshop Citadel primer. It'll get a nice dark color on, or a color on for you to be able to use. And you can start it as if it's going to be a darker tone, use a darker base coat, but make sure it's nice and even on the models. And then, as O'Christ mentioned, absolutely learn your batch painting. So let me give you an example here. So I have several of these, Hormagaunt models that I'm going to be painting up, and I need to strip them still. So they're in the same predicament as you, right? So I have several of these. I have about 20 of these models, right? But the idea is I'm going to come in and I'm going to probably paint one of them so that I get a sense of what color scheme I want to have. Right? And this is my method, so this is not necessarily something that you have to do, but if I'm coming in at a new model or a new army that I haven't really kind of gotten the color scheme ready for, I'm going to paint one model so that I know what I'm looking at. So in this case, I've painted my model, my one model from this army, this color here. It's a High Fleet Kraken, and this is the color scheme that I'm going to use on the whole army. Now, it doesn't have to be the same unit. It doesn't have to be the same model. It can just be one of the models in that unit as well. All right. Then what you do is you start thinking about and picking out the items of what you want to do. So in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and prime this model entirely in like a Wraithbone, because all of this model was painted with the contrast paints from the Citadel line of paints. So it's a nice different way of doing things. You can do it with regular layer paints, which are opaque. Contrast allows for a nice light color to be put onto the base coat, but then as you apply colors, darker, it becomes darker in the recesses and lighter on the raised areas. So with that, then I start picking out those areas, right? So all of the legs and under carapaces are going to be that beige color. So what I'll do is I'll paint the entire beige color on one model, move to the next, move to the next, move to the next. Then I'll come back and I'll do the red on the carapace, so on and so forth. So what that does is it has it so that you're making progress on the entire unit as opposed to just one model at a time, where it makes you feel a little bit more daunting. It feels a little bit more daunting to do if you're only getting one model done at a time, and especially as you start getting into larger number of models. Using Simple Green right now to strip some previously painted bits I picked up from garage sale. Yeah, it's a great product, isn't it, Cleveland? Okay, so you know your paint scheme already, so that's cool. Yeah, you have that sense of it. So you're going to use that method that I just explained. Then you're going to essentially want to try and pick out all of the different areas, right? So if you're going to come in and do all of the teeth, do all the teeth. Do one model at a time, and then come back and do all the hooves, and then do all the skin, and then do all the carapace. Like I say, it just gives you like the psychology of it really helps out with your progress through the unit, as opposed to doing one at a time. I was just worried if I did that, I might not learn from a mistake made on Model 1, but hey, that's what stripping is for. Yeah, absolutely, and you have that option. And what's really cool and forgiving about acrylic painting, as long as you're laying your paints down in a fairly thin fashion, you can always come back and kind of fix and touch up later. You know, this model here that I was working on today for my, what I call my paint. Got the bases all wet. It's called Finish Dat Mini, right? This model was not finished. It was in fact, you know, very, very roughly done. I had done just that. I was very fast in my application of some of the red, and it got on some of the other areas, but I was able to come back and clean it up a little bit better as well. So don't worry about making little mistakes and kind of going over on things. You can always come back and clean them up later. And as you get to model number 5 and realize, hey, I'm doing something a little bit different on this last 10th model, you can always go back to model 1 and touch that up area after that as well. Definitely didn't thin enough as a child, maybe even at all. Absolutely. You know what? That was probably one of my biggest things when I started when I was a child as well. I like having my paint about the consistency of milk, and I apply more coats if I need to. Christ might be able to speak to this as well. You know, it's a lot easier to fix something with thin layers and do more of it, as opposed to putting on a big thick layer, having it blob on, and that blob essentially take away some of the detail of that model. We work in a very small scale, and you want to make sure that the detail is not lost with the model, right? Skim milk, yep, is more for airbrushing. Yeah, so 2% whole milk, essentially, almost like cream that you're putting in coffee. That's the milk that you're going to use for putting it on a brush, and skim milk for an airbrush, absolutely. Oh, Christ. Do thin washes like Newland oil, dependent on what you want to do with the wash? Absolutely. So that will essentially give you shades and highlights, right? So in this case here, my wash that I had done was the gold that I used. There's also a new paint line called Contrast Paint. I don't want to sell it for GW, but they work really well in getting just that done. If you put a light color down and another color on top, it essentially shades that, or recesses, the recesses become a lot more dark, and the highlights become more highlighted. All right, so where was I? I was taking a look at my young lady here. So as I showed you, the eyes now are pretty much ready to go. I got a little bit of that red tone on her cheek. I'm gonna put a little bit more of that red tone on, just because I want her cheeks to kind of really look fairly rosy, right? I'm also going to take in that Reichland Flesh shade. I did see the contrast. It's definitely not for me, but I do see the beauty in streamlined batch painting. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the contrast paint will be helpful, could be helpful for a quick turnaround of models in certain circumstances. You know, like, it's not for everyone, and it's not necessarily going to give you the exact kind of output that you're looking for. But I would rather learn traditional layering as a newbie. Yeah, that's cool. Layering is nice to start with as well. All right, so what I've done is I've mixed a little bit of Argax Earthshade and Reichland Flesh Shade here. So this is essentially being a wash that I'm putting right in the recesses and getting around the black line of the hairline essentially. So I can really distinguish between where the hairline is and the face. And as well right around the eyes. So essentially really kind of just black lining, almost giving her like an eyeliner. Right? I'll show you in just a second here. Just want to get this done. So what that wash does, really thin area, what it does is it kind of outlines that face, right? And I'm noticing that looking on this camera, I want to get a little bit more of a shade around the nose as well. So essentially I'm just applying my shadows for the face with the wash. There's a few things you can do that are similar, that are fun though. The Blood Angel Red looks like the winner from them. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the winners when you're applying it. When you're applying it through an airbrush, I think is really where it comes across really well. It comes and applies on a fairly smooth area. It's pretty opaque. Yeah, absolutely. Airbrushing inks over a zenithal primer, essentially giving you that shade from one to another. Zenithal highlight is kind of like this here, where I primed this model black, and then did a zenithal shade with a bone white on top. It gives you essentially all of the details. You can see where the details are. And if I was to do like a glaze over this, which is a very, very thin coat of paint, almost translucent coat of paint, you can see the color and the shade from it. If I ever paint again, I'm going to try them out 100%. Time matters to me so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to use them on zombie flesh tones. They should be good. Yeah, most of the thinner and lighter colors of the contrast paint line are really well done. Like the what is it called? The basilicum gray. It's almost like a Newland oil with the same texture as the contrast paint. So it's nice to be able to get that application really nice and smooth, and the same kind of effect as a Newland oil. All right, time to start painting the hair. I think I could spend a little bit more time maybe on the face. I'm gonna come back to it if I need to. All right, the hair. Let's do this. We are going to make her have red hair as we determined earlier. So I like doing my red hair with a start of the Everland Sunset, almost like a mustard yellow. This is a nice base coat that I use. The reason I use it is because it goes on super smooth and really kind of covers really well, especially over a light color like this. Even if it was being done over black color, 2 thin coats probably be well done. So essentially here, get my paint down. Thank you so much for the follow as well, Shinra. Much appreciated, buddy. Being very careful of where I'm putting this. We want to have full coverage on the hair, but not hit that face, right? So. Kind of look like she has blonde hair to start, Kusei. This is definitely not the case. So Shinra, what models are they? Are you going to be practicing on? I'm kind of curious. Like, are they like a Kings of War style, or like kind of like a like a Green Army Men style that's been painted? Kind of curious. Glue her in. As I mentioned last week, I'm really regretting not leaving her head off the model, painting her. So much trouble getting around, making sure I'm not going to hit her armor. Would have really loved to not have that happen. Shinra Tau Fire Warriors, but I want them in Deathwatch Black style, white Tau Sept colors with only blue for all lenses. Oh, cool, nice. That'll be cool. I like the. I've always liked the Tau models as well. Super neat and getting that done. Got some on my table right now. I'll show you in just a moment. Some I'm working on for a client. These guys here. Kind of a nice light color as well. They were released when I was a kid at the exact same time I got in 40K, so nostalgia about never finishing it as a kid. Absolutely. Yeah, it's nice to have something to look back on and be able to come back to like that. So that's cool to see that you're going to be working on that. All right. I'm going to let that hair dry really, really well because I don't want to do a wash on it and have it so that those colors bleed through. Face is looking pretty good. And we're gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take a look at putting some more gold down on her. All right, so gold is going to be all of the adornments, all of the kind of iconography that we have on here. So I'm going to be very, very careful in putting the gold where I need it to be here. Fleur de lis as well, gonna be gold. What I'm doing is I'm just putting down a nice base color here. So I'm using Retributed Armor on this. This is my tried, tested, and true, my tried. Essentially, GW's start of my gold career is putting down Retributor Armor, washing it with Reikland Flesh Shade, and then re-highlighting with the same gold and some silvers. I know I'm setting myself up for a big edge highlighting challenge as a newbie, but I kind of like thinking that can be my goal. Absolutely. Edge highlighting is super straightforward, and it's just a matter of practice to get your hand, your muscle memory to be able to put it down without applying too much pressure. Really, that's the only thing that I can kind of say is that, like, essentially your edge highlight kind of comes across. If you're looking at my brush, if my fingernail was my edge, you're essentially applying your highlight on the edge like that, and it's just making sure that you're not applying too much pressure to get that paint too far onto the model or too far into that. Kind of edge highlighting these areas right now, almost, just so that I'm only getting the gold or the color just on the edges of the detail. It's one of the drawbacks to painting such a small model and small miniature, is that you have to be very, very conscious of where your brush lines are going. There. That's how she's coming across. The wash will kind of deepen those colors of those fleur-de-lis. And I'll come back and highlight as well. More questions of all popular advice given to beginners. What do you find the most incorrect? The most incorrect advice given to beginners. Sadly, to have a lot of flat surfaces. Yes, absolutely. I think the biggest thing that is given to the biggest advice that's given to beginners, and it could be, you know, maybe for maybe the actual store owners that do this, or people who are selling the products, is that you need to use a certain line of paint. You have to use Vallejo, you have to use Citadel, you have to use P3 or any of the different lines that are available, Army Painter, you know. I think that's the biggest misconception that is given to new painters, is that you have to use a certain line. Based on my experience, I have a wide variety of kind of paints that I use. Most of them are from the Vallejo and Citadel lines. I do have a couple of Army Painter lines. It's just a matter of making sure that you're comfortable with the actual paints that you're using. Get to know the actual product itself, buy a couple of them and see how they work. I personally don't enjoy using Army Painter, but I don't discredit them. I don't use a lot of them. I use a lot of their washes and inks, but I don't use a lot of their colors because they're so thin and the pigment really settles a lot. So I have to shake the paint a lot to be able to make it so that it's useful again. So that's one of the reasons why I don't do that. But I think that's probably one of the biggest pieces of advice that is incorrect that people can use. Anything that has like a grit to it essentially has a problem for me. That's my case. I've painted with craft paint from the dollar store. It just means that I have to apply a lot of different thin layers to get it down nice and smooth. Talking about the consistency of our paint that we were working with a little bit earlier. Christ has a bad opinion about the thin your paints is probably the worst advice when not paired with a how and why. Yeah, absolutely. That's probably a good one as well, Christ. As a noob, you might be thinking, thin my paints, but I only have to put one layer on. In that case there, no. You need to make sure that the color is looking the way you want it to look, not just because you want to put a quick layer on, right? So yeah, I think the how and why from my perspective of the thinning your paint is, one, you don't want to lose any detail as you're putting any kind of paint on, and two, is to make sure that it can go down a lot smoother as opposed to putting it on in a clunky, chunky kind of way. So that's kind of that thing from me. All right, let's continue with some more gold here. What do we got? We're at 220. Okay, cool. We still got some time to get some stuff done. All right, so as I'm looking down the model here, I see that I have some areas down here that I want to get done. So I'm just going to take off a little bit of paint. All right. And I'm not going to worry about getting gold on the skull of her shin pads here. So I'm going to come back and clean up that skull later. See, I'm just kind of getting it on. Yeah, You got my head in the screen. Let's see if I can get it so that you guys can see things as I'm painting. And welcome back, Leaf Lover. I told everybody the story about me forgetting that you were my sister. I know, it's horrible. It is horrible. I even made the account and the name, so I feel horrible. So all I'm doing is just putting down the nice gold colors here so that I can come back. Again, this is really thin so that I am putting it in and it looks like it's kind of really thickening up in there. It might lose detail, but in this case here it's just the water. So that's going to evaporate, and I'm actually going to make sure that all the skulls are gold. I want to put this skull as gold over here too. So that moisture is going to evaporate, and it'll just have that paint in that recess nicely to be able to still keep that detail. And that's funny as heck. It is. And thank you, Leaf Lover, for forgiving me. Shinra President, best method to fix slip-ups when painting? Like, say how you were doing the fine gold over already painted sections. Would you soak it up with a dry set brush, small? Absolutely. Here we go. You know what? Let's say I accidentally get a little bit of gold right here. Oh, there we go. So very quickly, what I'm going to do is clean my brush, right? And essentially, with that paint that's still fairly wet, use it like an eraser, right? So you see, I just took that gold off. Now, it's very important, I know, when it's wet. So, it's very important though to do it before it actually like cures onto the model. Now that was fairly quick. I did my clean of my brush. I could even have another brush handy that I can kind of put it in, but essentially that gold came right off, right? So little blunders like that, as long as you're quick about it, should be okay. If not, you're gonna have to repaint over that if you don't, if you're not able to clean it up. And it happens. It happens to everyone. Oh Christ, I'm sure you can talk to this. You know, as you're getting into a little nook and cranny, and you get a little bit of paint on, you know, the silver, and you don't notice it until like the next day. Eating of the excess is essential. Yes, I always clean off my brush with my mouth. But Oh Christ can probably attest to, you know, finding those little pieces. It happens to everyone. You know, you try to do your best, it's nice and neat, but sometimes it still happens. Can't get around it. All right. My next step here is, I'm mistaken, I got my, right here. Okay, so this is my secret weapon that I use for red hair, and it's red ink. I know, red ink. So essentially this is some red ink that I purchased years ago, transferred over into a dropper bottle, and I've had for this purpose and this purpose alone, and essentially it's to make red hair. I put down that mustard yellow, okay, then I kind of thin down my ink so that it's fairly translucent, very much like a skim milk. All right. And here we go, Kusei Rock, are you watching? You know, watch the magic come into making your red hair, your red-haired lady here. Essentially, we're just gonna apply it over in a nice thin coat, almost like a wash. Ooh, jeez. Good thing she wasn't glued on. Might have broke her there. So essentially, just like laying this nice thin coat of red ink down. These are a nice red tone of color. And it's fairly translucent, so you can kind of see the highlights automatically happen with that red color. No, quick blender. That's what I was curious about. Cool, yeah. Yeah, that quick blender can be really fixed like that. Nicely and easily fixed like that. All right. I'm gonna let her hair dry now. So there we go. So there's your nice red hair cousé. Okay, so obviously what I'm gonna do now though is I'm gonna come in with a darker color. Okay, and I'm gonna just get the roots in the deeper, darker colors so that it looks a little bit darker, and then I'll come back in with that yellow and highlight just on the edges so that you can see the highlight of that red hair. So there we go. Got our red-haired sister right there, sister of battle. All right, let's continue with more gold. Keep those questions coming, Shinra. I'm really liking them. How important is understanding the color wheel for a beginner? For instance, I often hear people say yellow-purple complement, but I find them horrible together. Okay, so that's just a matter of preference, but yes, yellow and purple are actually complementary colors on the color wheel. When you're choosing colors, it's kind of, it's not necessarily really important to make sure it's done. If you want to make sure there's nice contrast and complements of each other, you can. But it's not super important, right? If you have an idea in mind of what you're looking at, if you have something that's fairly nice, that looks nice together, it's really up to you. It's your that's the joy of miniature painting, is that the models that you're putting down on the table are yours and your creation. You know, as long as you enjoy them and as long as you're putting them on, you know, if someone's like, ooh, those colors really don't match together, well, you can tell them off because it's your colors, right? Is complement a technical term like contrast? It's kind of a complement. Let me see. I think I have a color wheel handy. Just had one handy. Not anymore. So essentially, what there is there's three primary colors in the color world: yellow, blue, and red. Now, the way that works here, let me show you on a piece of paper here. Okay, the way it works on a let me see if I can find the yellow. Yeah, I can. All right, so essentially there's red, blue, and yellow. Okay, so let me just do this with like just some colors here, and it's gonna be hard to see. Gonna be hard to picture because I don't actually have the colors here. So blue, red, and yellow. If you mix red and yellow together, you get orange. If you mix yellow and blue together, you get green. If you mix blue and red together, you get purple. Right? Now, the way that complementary colors, and then you get different shades and hues in between, right? So then what you do is a complementary color is one that's opposite of each other on the color wheel. So purple and yellow are complementary colors. Blue and orange are complementary colors. Red and green are complementary colors, right? So essentially what they are is it's a technical term in art that it's a secondary color that's made from a primary color that's a complement to a primary color. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. But that's essentially what the color theory works with, right? And then if you get, you know, red and orange together, you can have multiple drops of whatever. So essentially when you're mixing things, think of it as units, right? If you got 1 drop of yellow and 1 drop of red, you're going to make pure orange. But if you make 2 drops of yellow and 1 drop of red, you're going to get yellow orange, which is a more yellower orange, right? So that's essentially the way color theory works, and that's what people say when a complementary color is there. Is complement a technical term like contrast? Basically, I understand the primaries and secondaries and opposites, and that's exactly what it is, opposites. Beyond that, you got me stumped. Might I post a link to Terrain Tutor's breakdown of the wheel as well? Might help. Might be rubbish for this as well. No, absolutely, Wraith Answer. Go ahead and post that link up for sure. It's a little bit of a visual representation as opposed to me just writing down those colors. Okay, so coming in, I want to touch and do a little bit more of that red hair. Okay, so I'm taking my my contrast. No, I don't want my contrast. I just want my wash. So I'm using my Carlsberg Crimson. This is a darker kind of deep red. And essentially what I'm going to do here is get into those recessed areas of the hair. Essentially those darker areas where I see that red is pooled a little bit deeper, right? Because I've got the hue or the color that I want. So essentially all I'm doing is taking this red now and getting the red a lot deeper on the hair. Okay. That's gonna really bother me. I gotta get her glued onto this holder. I'll keep that saved, thank you. Yeah, thanks, Wraith Dancer. It's a good, it gives you a good idea of where things are, how things kind of work. But hopefully, to answer your question, you know, how essential is knowing that to a beginner? It's not super essential, right? It does help out when you're making choices for your colors, but it's not super needed. All right, see, let's make a nice darker color as that dries. I'm gonna come back in with some more of that yellow to highlight those hair. Okay, back to more gold. Some gold ready to go. Sisters don't like being stuck down. Nope, they don't. All right. Explaining the wheel and how you as a mini painter can use it might make a good YouTube video as well. The one I posted is for terrain, so it's explained for that context. Absolutely. I think there might be one available. If not, great idea. Thanks, Wraith Dancer. I'll definitely consider putting one together if that's the case. Alright, here we go. I do have some tips though for you, Shinra. If you're coming back to the painting scene and haven't been for a while, it's not necessarily something new, but in case you hadn't been doing it, you'll notice that like a lot of the time, and this is the biggest point of improvement that I can tell anyone. It's that I'm not painting. Notice I'm not painting with like my hand up in the air and just kind of letting the brush do its thing. What I'm doing is I'm finding a place for me to put my pinky finger or ring finger on my painting hand to be able to use it as a guide or as a stability area. Essentially, what that does is it makes it so that I have an anchor point, right? And you get to use your hand and your stability of something else to make sure that your paint strokes are really nice and smooth. So that's probably one of the biggest points of improvement that I've given ever anyone, and it's really been the one that I've noticed people have the most improvement with. I was just thinking that an infograph on how to create a color scheme would be super helpful. That's a cool idea, guys. I think that might be pretty neat to do. I mean, typically a lot of the time people kind of get a sense of what army colors they want to use from already painted models or codexes or army books that they have. But absolutely, if you're thinking, hey, I want to find a color. Something that's really cool is there's a guy, I forget his name. He's got a YouTube channel called Goobertown Hobbies, and he does like a painting challenge where he rolls his dice for the primary and secondary colors of the model. Now that's just the primary and secondary being like primary being that needs to be the one that's the most predominant on the model, and the secondary being this is what can be on the model as like highlights or things like that. But I like the idea of being able to find and rolling or randomly choosing a primary color for your model, and then how to decide what colors accent that. Good idea. I think I'm going to put that together. Oh, I'm definitely going to brace myself. Old Shaky, they called me in high school. Nice. That's Old Shaky. That's a good one. Okay, there we go. So I've got my gold. I'm debating on whether or not there's raised areas on her pauldrons. I'm debating on whether or not I want them to be gold as well. Is it going to be too much gold? Should I put it as something else? Maybe should I put it white? Well, that's definitely an inventive way to keep things fresh for hobbyists. Yeah, absolutely. I think that might be what I do for my next 1 hour painting challenge as well. When I pick a model, I'm just going to randomly pick a color as opposed to just, picking something based on what I know. All right, everyone, I need your opinion. For my Sister of Battle here, you'll notice that she's got some pauldrons here, and the pauldrons have some raised edges like the where they see the rivets. Now, typically what I'll do is I'll use that as the gold or something and have that done. But my question to you all is, do we want them to be white or do we want them to be gold? You decide. What do we got here? Right answer. Would really love to find a mix of layers, shades, base of whatever it takes to make plastic look swollen, irritated, and brush with pressure of blood and pus. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that's pretty much anything within the green and purples areas. I think you can probably make some stuff. Wow, she's pretty. Thanks. So, right answer chooses white. Leaf lover white. Lots of gold on her already. Yeah, I kind of agree. So let's do that. We're going to do her pauldrons. Now, do I want to do the flat part of her pauldron white or the raised area of her pauldrons white? Let's see what she's got going on on the interwebs. Let's see what she looks like. Sister Superior. It's actually silver in there. Okay, cool. So, oh wow, she's got scars on her face. That's cool. I'll have to pick those out as I do a little bit more details on there. Okay, so I'm not sure what I want to do. So her red robes, something that's neat about her robes is like there's like a see how there's a white, there's a, not even a white thing, but there's an edge area around it. You can kind of see this here is edged, this here is edged, and on her right on here along this line, essentially it's like a little bit of a strip of extra cloth, and in the box art it's painted white. So maybe what I'm gonna do, I might just leave it the same color. I might come back to it because I don't want to put too much white as well, right? I want the red to come through and show there. So I'm gonna think on it until next week. So let's come back in though here and finish up some of this hair. So I'm just putting down. So what I'm doing is I'm getting this really, really thin, right? And essentially very thin here. So now all I'm going to do is pick up those edges. Essentially I'm just kind of painting in single strands of hair on the edges of this. So with this last kind of coat for my hair, the kind of brush strokes that I'm taking are not across the grain. It's going to be with the grain of the hair, like as if it was like hair itself. And just very, very, very thin lines, making sure that I'm accentuating those edges where the detail is. I'll show you in just a second as I'm done, but essentially it's like the highlights of the hair. Is your red-haired sister of battle, Kusei. Black trim on here. I think it'll be lost in the deepness of the color that's already there. For the raised edge of the pauldron, you're referring to? Yeah, I was referring to the raised edge of the pauldron. Now call me a Nubian simple, but if the armor is dark green like that, would a greenish white work? Yeah, it might. Yeah, that might work at all. Greenish white, absolutely. Greenish white, here we go. Nihilak oxide. Actually, that might be pretty cool. I'm gonna sleep on it though. I think I am. I'm not sure. I don't want to make a decision right now. I don't want to make a hasty decision and have to come back and fix it or change it if it's not something that I'm enjoying. Because she's got her purity seals, right? So those are going to be white, kind of like an ivory, and then the edges of the robe are going to be a white. So I don't want to take away from that. All right. What I'm going to do here now is I'm going to start doing some highlights on the robes. Essentially, just bringing that nice bright color out again. wash is done. It's got that. What I'm gonna actually do is I'm gonna do a little bit of a blend here as well. So I'm getting my colors kind of down for the red. I wanna brighten it up right at the edges as well. So, because my this nice kind of orangey color down, right? And then I'm gonna put my red down. Red's down. I'm gonna put my yellow down. Essentially what it does is it blends it nice and wet, right? Because my colors are still wet here, I'll show you how this comes on. So you see how the color goes from the darker color to the lighter color? And that's from just using a little bit of a wet blend to get that pop. All right, I'm doing it. I'm gluing her down. She's gonna lose all her paint from falling off all the time, and me taking my greasy little fingers and putting it in. Glue. Glued in. Sister down! Yep. Okay. I'm gonna get a little bit more of this down here. So I'll get this. So where are you joining us from today, Shinra President? I mean, most of the people that are watching me are kind of locals in my area. Sudbury, Ontario. Just curious, where are you from? You don't have to share if you don't want to, but you know, just curious. I like knowing where my Southwestern Ontario. Nice. So what I'm doing here is an exercise in what people really consider contrasting. So I've laid the color down and I've got that color nicely laid and it's nicely on there. But you know, people want to see the contrast between, you know, the shadows and the light of that model, right? Of that piece of clothing or whatever it is. So essentially, this is an exercise in getting that contrast to be really noticeable without making it so that the model looks really horrible on it as well. So, you know, the darker red is nice, but because I'm highlighting with an almost like an orange, you can still see that it's a red color, but the contrast between the two is there. And that's really the principle around what those contrast paints were meant to do. And that's what I'm doing, is I'm just essentially putting that contrast down from a dark to light. And you can do it with wet blending, or you can do it with just like layering. It's really up to you. Oh, my hair's in there. Thank you. Thank you, Wraith Dancer. So I'd like to take a moment right now to shout out to all my people who are supporting me on Patreon. We got Wraith Dancer here, we got TBMC Kevin and TBMC Irvin. Thank you so much. Your patronage is very much appreciated. Helps me in making sure that I can pay for models like this and give away models. Woo-woo. If you're interested in joining Patreon or supporting me in any way, I do believe over the next little while I'm probably going to be ready to do subscriptions here in Twitch, which will be kind of fun. But you can always find my Patreon account down below. You can donate as much as $1, or as always up to $50 a month. Any little bit helps, so I thank you and eternal gratitude for those people. If you're looking for Games Workshop models or any kind of hobby supply stuff to be ordered online at a discount, Tista Minis is a guy that I work with a lot. Tista Minis provides a discounted rate on all of his products in his online store, and it's Tista, TISTAMINIS.com. Upon checkout, if you do end up putting in a code all capital brush jockey, all one word, you'll get an additional 10% off your purchase with him. So go ahead over to tistaminis.com and see and get some discounted prices over there. You got time at the end to preview the Nurglings, possible to pick up this week. Yeah, so the Nurglings. Oh, you mean your Blight Terminators? Haven't actually done a lot of work on them, man. I haven't even primed them. Oh, the Prince. Yeah, I showed him. I think you were away. I haven't done a lot of work on him, man. So I do apologize. I've been kind of struggling with getting a few things done for work, but he's ready to get paint on him. But I can probably have him ready for maybe mid next week. Is that fair? Like probably Thursday or Friday this week. I mean, is that cool, man? Hopefully that's good, because I can probably get that done for you. So sorry, Wraith Dancer. I know I've been kind of slacking on things with the weather the way it's been. Been enjoying my pool lately, so quality over the rush. Awesome. Thanks for understanding, dude. All right, so let's wrap this up with a little bit of wash on these guys, on her details of the adornments that are on her, and we'll head out from there. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone who's supporting. Thank you so much for everybody who watched today. Brush Jockey, yes, that is the code. And Tista Minis, if you don't mind finding that up there, Wraith Dancer. Thank you so much for being my moderator lately, man. Putting that up, tistaminis.com. Brush Jockey is the code. So all I'm doing here is putting my wash of Reikland Flesh Shade on my little details, and essentially getting the shade in on that, the shadows in on those details. Okay, so what that does is essentially that gold, it essentially puts in the shadows in here. Now I might put another level on there, but that's cool. Facebook, it's the second one there, Race Dancer, tistaminis.com. If you're in there and at the store, put in that code and you will get a additional 10% off of what's already discounted at a pretty reasonable rate already. So, and that's on any of the order. So not just the Games Workshop stuff. It also does does a discount on your entire order, 10% off your entire order. So if you're looking for paints or used miniatures or anything of the sort, Tista Minis is a great location to do that from. Okay. So, with that said, I am OJ, your brush jockey, over here at Brush Jockey Studios. Made a great amount of progress on Sister Superior, as well as finished up the finish that mini segment with this guy here. I'll take some photos and put them up on my YouTube channel and Instagram account. So thank you so much for everyone for following along and enjoying the chat today. Thank you to all my new subscribers, followers, especially Shinra President. Thank you so much for joining us today. Keep those questions coming. I will be streaming this Tuesday. I stream every second Tuesday. I will be streaming this Tuesday with a 1-hour painting challenge. I'll find a model and paint it in 1 hour or less, hopefully. And if not, I fail, and that's okay. But join me then or next week at 12 noon for more installments. Bring your questions or even find me on Facebook. All of the information's underneath. Send me a message if you have questions, Shinra. Please don't hesitate to contact me. My purpose of being here is to help people out and help them get a little bit more into the hobby and more involved in it. So if I can help out in any way, if there's any questions that you have for me, please don't hesitate to contact me. Okay, man? All right. Thank you so much again. Again, I am OJ, your brush jockey, here at Brush Jockey Studios, signing out.